Oh my God, y'all. I'm doing a podcast. Welcome to my first episode of my podcast. How are y'all today? I want y'all to know that I've been recording this podcast for about 5 hours now. The first time it was so perfect. But guess what? Wasn't even recording. Like, I wasn't even recording. And I started trying to, do it again. I took a little break and I said, okay, let me re-record. And it just wasn't hitting right. I had to just calm down, say a prayer, and just remember that it's not about me. It's about God. So that's how I'm starting my first. That's how I'm starting my first podcast off. Um, First, I just want to let you know that I'm so excited that you're here. Again, I am Ashley Bills. This is my podcast, In Tune with You, A Journey to Glory. What is my podcast name? All right, like I mentioned before, it is called In Tune with You, A Journey to Glory. What will I be talking about in my podcast? I'm going to be talking about my walk with Christ, my walk before I got saved, when I first got saved, and my walk as it is now. I'm also going to be talking about different people and their walk. Well, they're going to be talking about their walks themselves. Hold on. It's gonna make sense. It's gonna make sense. And just talking about our life and letting everybody know basically that it may seem, like peaches and cream, but it's a lot that goes on that maybe somebody else may be feeling this way too, and they don't even know that, you know, that's a part of it. So that's what leads me to why did I start this? I started this podcast. It's multiple reasons of why I started it, but one of the main reasons is because, no, not the main reason, but one of the reasons is because the enemy is at a rampage and trying to disconnect the people of God and not unify us. So I went to this prayer retreat and it was called Glory on the Grounds. And there was a woman of God who I had already seen speak before. And, she preached and she prophesied to different people and she prophesied to me. I won't say everything of what she said, but her prophecy be so on point, and it was so on point that I just was amazed. She told me that, how can I say it without, I don't know. She told me that I would be doing interviews and that I would be in magazines and that I would be on different platforms on television, CNN. Like, she really was so specific with me. And you know how you hear from God and you hear a prophecy and it's like it aligns with your life and it aligns with what was already in your spirit. So when she said that, it was like, wow, all right, God, I gotta come see about you about this, and I gotta come see, and I even have the recording, and we'll get to it on another episode where I let you guys hear the recording that she had. It was so powerful. But that's what brings me to what my podcast is going to consist of. Yes, you will see this right here, where it's just me telling you a little bit about myself and, different past experiences that I've been through and different things that I go through now and different encounters I've had, just different topics. But you'll also see me doing interviews with special guests. Some of the people you may know, some of them you may not know. But we'll do interviews and they'll tell me different things about themselves and their walk and their journey. So yeah, why did I choose this name? All right, so there's a lot of reasons why I chose this name. I'm gonna make it short though. I had a whole lot of names that I had written down. I was like, okay, let me send out these names to people who are close to me. So I sent out the names and I told them to vote on it. I told them what the podcast was going to be about. And I said, what do you guys think? So it came down to these two podcast names. The first one, they was like, yeah, this the one. You got to get this or this the one. And that one, y'all, was so catchy. It was so catchy. It was like, I feel like it was in style, compared to, different podcast names. It was a nice podcast name. But with this name, I couldn't see my podcast being called that. Knowing what I was going to talk about, just knowing the whole basis around my podcast, I just knew that name wasn't going to match it. And it took me a while. I was like, oh my God, I want this name, but it just did not match. I didn't choose that one. Then the next name was called In Tune With You. That was the next one that was not the runner up because it was tied, but that was the next one. And I was like, okay. So I asked a church member. And she said, I think you should name it that, which is In Tune With You. But she said, I think you should put A Journey to Glory, like as a subheading. And I was like, ooh, yep, that's it. I prayed on it. And I had to see. I was like, God, is that it? And you know what? It never left my spirit. So I was like, okay, God, I think that's you saying keep it. So that's where the name came from. I want to kind of explain the name to y'all. So the first part of it is In Tune With You. In tune with you basically means in tune with God. I want to be so in tune with God. Like, I want to know how he smells. I want to know what he's thinking, his voice, his presence. I just want to know God. I want to be so in tune with him. In tune with you also means being in tune with my guests, with the person that I'm interviewing. I want them to know that I'm in tune with you. You in tune with me. We in tune with God. The second part is A Journey to Glory. I chose that because, as I was telling you, the prayer conference, and Pastor Dr. Riley named her conference Glory on the Grounds. And she said something so profound. She was talking about the glory of God. And she was like, do you know what it's like to carry the glory of God? And she was like, carrying the glory of God is when you enter into a room. You can be entering into a grocery store. And you catch everyone's attention. Not because of how you look. Not because of nothing like that. But it's like a light that shines on you. It's like this look that God gives you. And people want to know, like, what's going on with her? Like, ooh, what's making her smile so much? Ooh, she just so lit up. And she said that, I was like, ooh, I need the glory. I need the glory. Not because of no attention or nothing like that, or because I want somebody to see me as, I do want somebody to see me carrying the glory, but not an attention thing. I really do want to carry the glory of God. Once you carry the glory and you get that type of attention, you know what comes next? Somebody want to know, why are you looking like this? Why are you smiling? You just went through a storm. It was public. It was out in the open. Why are you still smiling? Why are you still dancing? Like, why are you glowing? And boom, that will lead to the conversation. God. And anytime that I can glorify God in any moment, he gets the glory. And if it takes that to allow a person to notice me or whatever, I'll take that. So that's where that part of the name came from, A Journey to Glory. And everybody don't hold the glory. And she said that as well. It's a process. It's a process where you have to kill your flesh. You got to die. And I know that sounds weird, but your flesh has to die. And you can't think about yourself, and your mind only has to be on God. But we'll get into that. So now we got that out the way. I want to talk about a question that comes up, not a lot, but I know this question is in people's mind, about me. That question is, why did I get saved? Why did I change my life around? Why don't I do the things that I used to do anymore? Simple. God. God, y'all. But I'm going to get into detail about it. The reason I got saved was because you know how you have that feeling. Ever since I was little, I had this feeling that I was chosen by God. I had this feeling. I've been through so much as a child. So much has happened in my life, but I've always leaned on God. Even as like a 5-year old, I've always leaned on God. I've always prayed. And I just knew at that age it was a calling on my life. I want to tell you a little bit about my life. When I tell you about my life, this is going to lead up to the reason I got saved. So, growing up, y'all, like I said, I didn't have a bad life and I didn't have a good life at the same time. But can't say that the good did outweigh the bad. And I wouldn't change it for nothing. Growing up, y'all, I always longed for love. I've always longed for this type of belonging. And as I got older, I started playing basketball. Basketball gave me so much attention. Basketball gave me so many friends, put so many people in my life, gave me so many opportunities. Basketball, I thank God to this day that he blessed me out of nowhere now with the ability to play basketball, because I never watched a basketball game before I started playing basketball in the 8th grade. I never picked up a basketball. I never knew nothing about basketball. So when I say God literally dropped the talent of playing basketball in my body, he did. So yeah, like I said, I've always had this attention that came with basketball. I've always had friends. I've always had a lot of people around me because I was a good basketball player. When I went to college, it had intensified. And I want to note that I told this story before. I went to Pine Grove. I was invited to Pine Grove to speak. So I told this story before. Um, I hope I don't cry. I I hope I get to this point where I can tell my story and not cry. Oh my God! But Holy Spirit be with me. But like I said, when I went to college, it was the same way, but I would say it intensified. I had so many people who knew me. I knew a lot of people. Um, I got much attention in college just because I knew how to play basketball. And I won't say just because I knew how to play basketball, but I had a big personality as well. I was sweet. Well, I'm sweet. Um, and I'm a people person as well. So that on top of me being a great basketball player, it brought a lot of people in my life. I would find out that that wasn't always good. I want to talk to you guys about patterns. Patterns is like a series of events that happen, not even just in your life, but it's a series of events that happen over and over, if we can break it down like that. The different patterns that occurred in my life were patterns with friends. I was this type of friend that I did anything my friend wanted me to do. If you were my friend, I feel like you were my friend. I'm doing whatever you tell me to do. Y'all know how your mom used to say, if Billy Joe jump off the building, you gonna jump off the building with Billy Joe? My answer would be yes. Like, that's how much of a friend I was. That's how much I was loyal. And it was to a fault, of course. But that's just how I viewed my friends. Like I said, I've always had friends. We always would go through different situations like falling outs. And every time I would fall out with a friend, I would always call my grandma and I was like, Mom, such and such did this to me. I can't believe she did that. I just can't believe this and that, this and that. And my grandma would always say, Ashley, the enemy is out to get you. It's time for you to get saved. And when she would say that, I would just be like, I was just looking for her to be like, let's go pull up. Like, what's up? Where they stay at? I was looking for their response, but it would never be that. She would always tell me, Ashley, the enemy's out to get you. It's time to get saved. So she would tell me that, and I would take heed to it, but I wouldn't just fully just receive it. So fast forward, the different situations with friends would happen again, different falling outs, and I would still have to question. It would make me question myself as well, and I'm like, why do I always why does this always happen to me? I would call my grandma over and over and tell her about different situations that happened. She always used to say, Ashley, the devil is out to get you. You have to get saved. And I was like, oh my God, I got to stop calling her and telling her about it because she's not understanding. So different situations would happen again. And this other situation that happened where I called her and I told her, and I was like, this was from a friend who was like a real close friend of mine. And I told her, and I was like, Mom, such and such did this. And I don't understand why this happening, why we just can't, get along like this. She was like, Ashley, the enemy's out to get you. You got to get saved. And I was like, okay, let me listen to my grandma. So that following Sunday, I said, I'm finna get baptized. I got baptized. I had a steady walk with Christ. It wasn't long. It wasn't consistent at all. But I did put forth effort to change my life around. But I ended up getting out back into the world, and I got back into that pattern. So the last situation is what I call the straw that broke the camel's back. I had a few friends who had come down to my house for the game for a football game here at Jackson State. And they had asked to stay with me. I said, of course, yes, those my friends, they stay with me. And before they got to my house, I found myself like being like overly anxious, being like, oh my God, I got to make sure everything right. I got to make sure I'm right. I got to make sure they feel welcome. I got to being so extra for these group of friends. And I just was like, at the time I didn't notice, but of course, looking back on it now, I'm like, why were you doing all that? And like literally, y'all, it was bad. And I'm not explaining it that well, but it was bad. The hold that they had on me. So they ended up coming down and we getting ready and we ended up going to the game. And we were in the tailgating area, but this said they didn't come in the tailgating area. So around the time they was about to come, the game was in and it was getting late. So I got in my car and I went into the area they were in to pick them up. So we was trying to find out what's the next move, what we going to be doing. So one of my friends who was in the back, she was like, Ashley, take this edible. When she said that, I was like, no, I'm not about to take an edible. I'm done. I'm good. I've been drinking. I don't need no edible. So she's like, oh, take the edible. And I was like, no. So I had my closest friend sitting in the front seat with me. And she was like, Ashley, take this edible. I was like, no, I'm not about to take no edible. No, I'm not going to take an edible. So not even like 5 seconds later, she put the edible, literally put it in my mouth. You know me. You know anybody. You got control if you want to chew it and swallow. I could have spit it out or whatever. But I chose to eat it. When I ate it, I didn't realize right then that my loyalty or my just my stupidity at the time to want to have a friend, to want to just continue to be friends, I didn't notice it, but it started dawning on me like, what did you just do? And I started to remember all these different situations that I've been in with those group of friends and with other friends as well. Like, it was just racing through my mind. And we ended up getting back to my house, and we were sitting in the living room, and we was waiting on the next move. Everybody was talking about what we're going to do, what we're going to do. And, a few minutes went by, and I started to become the butt of the joke. And when I say that, I mean my friends started making my home the butt of the joke. So me, I have this little whiteboard. I had this little whiteboard in my living room where I wrote down everything that I had to do for the week. And at the time, it was a game at my college that I went to, and I had to write down these different things that I had to do so that I won't forget. And they was like, "Girl, why you got that board here? Like, who does that? Like, why?" Everybody started laughing. I'm like, I'm laughing with them, like, hey, whatever. It's just a joke. Then the joke kept going and going and going. They noticed the dates. And they was like, the dates are, that been happened. Like, why you still got that up there? Like, that been happened. And it kept going and going and going and going. And I started like having flashbacks. I'm like, why are they doing me like this? I thought we were friends. And I know some of you may be like, Ashley, it's a board. You're right. It's just a board. Because the tea is, you couldn't find nothing else to talk about in my house. But we ain't going to talk about it now. I'm just playing. But I know y'all might be saying, it's just a board. But it's different situations that we have been through. And the edible situation, it still was fresh on my mind as well. So I started getting my feelings. And I ended up going to my room. And, I kind of shut down and got in my room. And I could still hear them outside my door in my house talking about me. I just was crying. I was crying. I was crying, y'all. I was crying. I was in the worst place I've ever been in mentally. And I couldn't go to sleep. And I received this text message from my church member. And she was like, come to church tomorrow. And I had just told her that I was going to help with security at the church. And I didn't go to church that previous Sunday. So I'm like, oh, she want me to come because I need to help her with security. So I texted back and I said, okay. And the next morning, I go in the living room where they were. And I was like, okay, y'all, well, I'm about to get ready to go to church. So, kind of telling them, all right, y'all outstage, y'all welcome. Telling them, I'm about to get ready to go to church. And my closest friend who put the edible in my mouth, she ended up saying, church. And I was like, yes, church. Now, keep in mind, y'all, this friend is a friend who who we talk about God. We talk about God with each other. We talk about what he's done for us with each other. Like, we have these conversations. And for her to say that was like, oh, yep, this ain't my friend. And so they was like, okay. So they ended up getting their things and they left. And when they left, I was crying some more. Like, it was really bad. It was bad. It was bad. It was really bad. So I started getting ready for church. I pressed on to church. And when I got there, I told my church member, I was like, I know you wanted me to come do this security. I'm sorry I didn't come to the previous Sunday. She was like, that's not why I text you. I text you because God told me to text you and let you know that the enemy is out to get you and you need to give your life to God. Y'all, I just broke down crying in that office. I could not control myself because what? You mean to tell me you're telling me the same exact thing that my grandma has been telling me all these years? Over and over. When something happened, when those different patterns occur with my friends, and I would tell my grandma, she would tell me the same thing. So You mean to tell me, you who don't even know me, that I've been going through any type of situation, or that I've just gone through a situation with my friend, you're telling me that God said this? I broke down, y'all, because she didn't know that that situation had happened. She didn't know that I was crying in the middle of my bed. She didn't know that I even contemplated doing suicide. Like, she didn't even know that. I contemplated doing committing suicide because I felt like I'm always running to God when something happened. I'm always running to him. And I know God, like, I'm so sick of this girl. Oh my God. Like, please. That's why I felt like God was saying what God was saying about me. And I was like, maybe I just need to take my life and just leave everybody alone, leave God alone. So when she told me that, I just, it was like a switch happened in my mind. So there was a speaker who came later that day, and she told me, she was like, come back. It's a speaker that's going to be speaking today. I will never forget this lady's name. Her name is Evangelist Tammy August. She came to our church and she preached. When I got in there, y'all, the presence of God was in the room. I didn't even know about the presence of God, but that was it. When she first got up there on the mic, she said, praise the Lord, saints. When she said those words, tears just ran down my eyes. I'm gonna cry. Y'all, it just felt like God was like hugging me. And I don't know if you know how they feel, but it felt like God was just hugging me and telling me, I got you. And in the natural, that lady probably was walking back and forth on that pulpit preaching. But in the spirit, I only saw her eyes lock in with mine and was talking to me, telling me everything gonna be okay. Telling me you got to leave. You got to leave these people alone. It's gonna get lonely. You're gonna be in the wilderness. You're gonna fall, but don't stay there. She said, you got to make your mind up. And that day, I made my mind up to live for Christ. And that's why I'm standing before you, sitting before you, whatever, a saved woman of God whose mind is made up that the world is not for me. So that's that's the reason why I'm saved. I'm sorry I took so long, but that's the reason why I'm saved. That's how I got saved. And that's why I decided to change my life around. And it was all because of these patterns that I constantly noticed in my life. So if you notice different patterns like that that may happen in your life, it may not be with friends, but I know that God used friends in my situation. And I'm not here to expose no one. I would never say nobody's name, but I know God allowed the enemy to use those people to get to me. And that's how I changed my life around. And maybe those people who God used didn't even know that they did that to me, or still probably to this day they like, hmm. But that's how God works. And like I said, I would never call nobody name. This ain't that. Like, I'm not here to create chaos or cause confusion. I would never uh, expose nobody. But if the shoe fits, then my story doesn't change. I'm gonna always tell my story how it's supposed to be told. I won't lie. I'm gonna tell you everything about myself, and that's just how God, you know, that's how God called me. So, like I said, if you're noticing different patterns in your life, like I said, it may not be with friends. It may not. It may be with having problems on your job. It may be having problems financially. It's something that's always occurring in your life. More than likely, y'all, it's God. So don't take that lightly. Don't take that lightly, because the devil come to steal, kill, and destroy. And if you give him any type of open and he's going to come through. He's going to come in. And I won't say that he don't try to come in to my life. He can't come into my life, but that doesn't mean he doesn't try. So I just wanted to encourage y'all and, tell y'all a little bit about why y'all don't see Ashley in the club no more. Why y'all don't see Ashley doing the things that I used to do anymore, the smoking, the drinking, and a lot of things that we will get into on different episodes. So as we move forward into my podcast, into different episodes of my podcast, you will not only hear about my different experiences, but you'll also hear about the experiences of my guests, and prayerfully they will help you on your journey. So I just want to tell you, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being in tune and clicking that subscribe button, those likes, and following me on different platforms. I am on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, of course, Facebook. So follow those and also turn on your notifications of when I post. Yeah, God is gonna be doing something big, and not only in my life, but in your lives as well. So I just pray that he does exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think. Thank you. See you on the next episode. Bye.
And as I take a look at my father, I realize I'm not so broken. I'm not so weak. I'm not so small. If this is my father, then there must be something within me that looks like him. For a lion gives birth to a lion. Fire gives birth to fire. The light gives birth to light. This is worship. The intimate exchange of identity.